Like you had that one time we talked for like 5 minutes and we were not live.
We're live.
We're live, everybody.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerds. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.
Oh, what is up, everybody? It is the season finale for us. Time to recap and discuss. Hopefully, you catched up by now. Hopefully, if you've been following us, you have watched it all the way through, got to episode 7. Because major spoiler alert if you already don't know. But yeah, guys, we're here. Episode 7, we made it. Get your drink ready because Lord have mercy. Was it an episode 7? It was insane. It was crazy. We got our moderator, Angelica, up in here in the building to finish it out for us. We got Samuel. Jamie is on assignment. You know, we jinxed her again with that finale curse. So, you know, she's busy getting the information and everything for you guys. So check it out. So, you know, follow us on all social media platforms. Twitter, I believe, is the only one you can't comment. But seek us out. Find us out. Because I know you have some comments about this final episode here. About Dre and the craziness, or Tony, should I say. So, yeah, let's get this, you know, right? So let's get into the episode. Angelica, take it away for us. What you got?
All right, so this episode is entitled Only God Makes Happy Endings. So I would say by the end of this episode, we should be able to discuss why that title is so important. So last week, hey Indigo. Last week we had our ID Discovery-esque episode with Detective Loretta Green, the true life events of Dre's story. Now we're back into the fold with Dre, who is in Atlanta. And you know, she got a whole different look. So before I dive in, your initial thoughts on the episode. I'll start with you, Ryan.
Woo, yeah, this one was intense. I should have had me some wine and go through this recap. This was crazy, but yeah, the bodies was back, but they did their thing because this with the psyche that they playing with, you can have any kind of thought pattern going into the end of this show and what you think happened. So kudos to Donald Glover, Janine Neighbors. Nice job. They finished it out.
Yeah, agreed. Samuel?
Yeah, this was a really strong ending. It was great compliment adding Kirstie Clemons to this one. I thought she was a very pivotal character to this one. But even more than that, I love how, even though the last episode was kind of like, it seemed like a one-off, but it actually tied into this one, which I didn't anticipate. It's just putting all the threads together. I went back and went through a couple different episodes. Like, oh, okay, this timeline works. It's like, oh, this is insane, because it all was a culmination of everything that Dre's gone to up until this point with this relationship, and just how it went out. It was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, the rewatch value of this series is like so good because you can go back and like connect all the dots and this is why they mentioned this and da-da-da. So yeah, it definitely made sense upon watching the finale why they did the true crime episode beforehand. And I like how they did the true crime first and then they gave you Dre's version of events.
Right.
So like I said, it's June 2018. We're in Atlanta. Dre has a new look. She got a new swag. She even behaves differently. She shaved off all her hair. You know, she rocking a fade. She's dressing more masculine. And she's posted up against her car, smoking an L outside of a club. And she notices a drunk white girl named Becca, who's played by Meg Barlow, wandering into the parking lot. So Dre's kind of people watching, and then she's kind of immediately intrigued by Becca's friend Rashida, who's played by Kiersey Clemens. And she's looking for Becca. She finds her outside. She's trying to wrangle her into an Uber, but unfortunately, Becca is so drunk the driver refuses to take them, so they're kind of screwed. And Rashida's infuriated. She's like, I should report your ass. This is illegal. She's having a fit in this parking lot. She just want to go home, want to get her, her friend back safely. And Dre offers them a ride. And Rashida was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I mean, she starts to realize she really doesn't have any other choice. And she ends up accepting Dre's offer. And I'm going to refer to Dre as Dre throughout the episode. But as we know with the series, she always has some type of alias, and this she goes by Dre, or excuse me, she goes by Tony. So I don't know if she's embracing her sexuality. I don't know if she's disguising herself because now they're on to her. But it could be a mix of both. But she's definitely got some BDE energy. Rashida seemed to be feeling her after getting past her initial meetup. So Dre walks Rashida to her door, and I just love how they just let Becca stumble behind them. Like, they didn't try to even help her. They were just having their little lollygagging conversation. Becca in the background just cutting up. So Rashida explains that Becca really isn't her friend. She's a roommate. So if something were to happen to Becca, she wouldn't be able to pay her half of the rent. And she introduces herself as Rashida, and Dre introduces herself to Rashida as Tony. She's from Texas. And Rashida, tells Dre that she's ATL born and raised. So they start to flirt. There seems to be some chemistry there, but they're interrupted by a now naked Becca who face plants right in front of them. I'm like, Becca is a hot mess. So they end up helping. Finally, they help Becca into the apartment. They leave her in the tub. She has like a broken nose. Rashida doesn't seem to care about that. She's like, I'm not a doctor. Like, just let her be. Dre follows Rashida into the living room and even catches a glimpse of Rashida changing her clothes. And then she kind of shakes it off. She sits down on the couch, and Rashida offers her a shirt because at this point there's blood all over her shirt from Becca. And Dre says she's okay. And Rashida's like, oh, blood doesn't seem to bother you. And she says, no, I grew up on a farm, which is a lie. We know why she's used to blood, because she's a murderer. So they share a blunt, and Rashida puts on some music, and it's a Niger song. And she immediately changes the station. She immediately changes the song, saying she hates Niger. And I was like, ooh, this is not good. This is not good. So Dre's like, oh, that's my favorite singer. That's my favorite singer. And Rashida was like, I don't know if you're playing with me or not. She's like, no, for real, I love her. And she's like, okay, my bad. And then she asked, why Dre is so chill, which if we think about Dre's personality, right, from the first episode, she was kind of like a weird, like, unsettled person. And here she's like this super calm, swaggy type of personality. So Rashida's like, yeah, you're still chill. You could be like either a med student or a serial killer. Rashida hit the nail on the head. Little did she know. So Dre smiles, and Rashida says she needs to call the med center to get Becca. So Dre gets up to leave, but before she does, Rashida asks for her number, and Dre's like, I don't have a phone, haven't had one in a while. So if you remember, Harris shut off Marissa's phone. And she notes, it's a bad habit. So Rashida calls her vintage, writes down her phone number and hands it to Dre. They say goodnight, and Dre ends up, sleeping in the back of her car. That's where she ends her night. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on Rashida and Dre's introduction. I'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, Becca, I'm telling you, have you a friend like Rashida, if you're going to be the Becca that's going to the club. Because, girl, I was like, she would come up missing real quick. Like, she eating out of the garbage can. She just walking around. I'm like, have you a friend like that, or somebody like a roommate that's going to bring you back when you are that just like trash from the drinking and everything? I was like, oh my, she had me scared. I was like, what is going on? But yeah, so she was lucky she made it back. I was like, oh Lord, Becca. I was scared for her. But yeah, this change in Dre was just like, again, shout out to Dominique, like we've been talking about all season. this like real relaxed. She's taking on this different persona because she knows that she got some heat on her right now, and she's trying to get hidden. So she's completely flipped. I mean, she still's got that, she got that psychotic edge, but it's a calmer, like, it's like I'm on the other hand, like, where can I hide? But she's still like, she's completely changed her whole persona and look. So she's like, okay, for right now, I'm comfortable doing this. But, she still got the different vehicles. The way she blends in and just keeps moving around will never be explained other than, like, I guess she's just one of those people that can, like, blend. And then, like, I guess when the psychotic of it all, the crazy of it all takes over, you just start going with the vibes. Because she's just, like, on this serial killer vibe and ain't nothing stopping her. And shout out to Kiersey Clemons. I'm waiting for her moment to really, like, pop out. Because I think she is a fantastic, like, dramatic actress. I've seen her in some, like, Dope, and we've seen her in, like, some action stuff as well, too. So I can't wait for her to get her shine on, because she's well played, and, like, being able to be surrounded by this type of character. And it's just like, she mentioned, hey, you might be a serial killer, but she's still sitting there. So it's interesting, like, you know what I mean? Like, so the way she played, having these two in this scene was phenomenal, to be able to see somebody go toe to toe. And Dre apparently is interested, because she just said, I hate nausea. Is the girl still breathing? So I liked it. The scene was working. So yeah, it's like, I was like, okay, girls, play it up. I like it.
Exactly. Samuel?
Yeah, I loved Dominique's performance in this whole episode was phenomenal. But I think that her embracing this persona of Tony was the thing that was the most eye-catching thing. Like, I don't know if it's that she's killed so many people at this point that she's just gotten comfortable with it, that she's come into her own, so she's just naturally relaxed. Or if it's that it's a combination that now she's like, well, this is the person I have to be moving forward, and I have to kind of chill. I can't let it on to anybody with anything, because if you look at the first episode to her now, it's like a night and day difference. You would never think that this is the same as that person. We've seen her have all these different other personas and stuff, but this by far is hers. Like, she owns it in ways that I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so by the time she met up with Rashida, I could tell, like, they were vibing. She was kind of like catching her eye and everything. But it was when they went back to the apartment, small little things like, she would have been in the refrigerator looking for a snack, or, normally like the hint of blood, she would have kind of like gotten like induced by that. She looked it up, she shrugged it off. And even with Rashida, like, saying like, I hate Naija, she was like, no, like, I love her. Like, she's my favorite girl. Like, it just like small little things that she's allowed her mind to be able to maneuver forward so she doesn't get caught. It's just crazy, because I don't know if it's that she's trying not to get caught, or if she's finally at a place of peace, if she's just finally come into a contact with the person that really kind of just accepts her, like, regardless. And seeing their humble beginnings, and even like, she could have went and been like, oh yeah, I'll call you, I'll do this. Wow. Like, she's like, no, I'll see you later. Thank you for this. And like, they played it really safe, and it felt believable. Like, the way that their relationship is kind of going just from these scenes, it just feels very natural. It's just weird, because we don't look at Dre as somebody that's deserving of something like that. But the way that Donald wrote her, it's kind of like, maybe this is the best thing for her, and of course, we know where the episode goes, but there's a lot to talk about. We'll get to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love seeing Dominique play off of Kiersey, or is it Kiersey or Kirsty? I never hear her name out loud, but I don't want to miss Kiersey Clemons. Okay, so, and Kirsty actually, by the way, she did have a starring role in this. It's like a low budget horror, like monster flick called Sweetheart. If you guys want to check it out, I think it's on Netflix. I really enjoyed it, and she was basically on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Samuel?
She was in Antebellum as well. She was one of the girls.
Oh, see, I wasn't.
I'm not saying I was a fan of the movie, but I'm with you, Samuel. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the movie, but I'm with you, Samuel. I remember her in there. Yeah.
I couldn't bring we love us some Janelle Monáe, but
right. I couldn't. It was hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
But yeah, check out Sweetheart if you want, to see her in her own element by herself. She was on an island kind of fighting off the sea monster, so it was pretty good.
Oh, okay. Oh snap!
Yeah. So, all Anywho, so a few days later, Dre is at the pharmacy and she notices Nija's festival visuals playing on a screen in the back of the pharmacy. And the background conversation to me was hilarious. It was a couple arguing over the effectiveness of Plan B when you're a larger woman and whether or not they should buy 2 pills. And so the guy was like, your BMI is over this amount and you need to get 2. And she was like, don't call me fat, just say you're broke. Because I guess he didn't want to pay for both of them. He's like, it's on the box. So even Dre had a little chuckle at their argument. And I'm like, that is so true. Like, people don't realize, I think Plan B is not that effective if you're over 155 pounds. So if you find yourself in that position and you weigh over 155 pounds, go ahead and get you 2 pills. So yeah. I don't know what Dre was in the pharmacy for. She ended up I don't even know, she got something. Maybe she went to pick up some toiletries, but she ends up heading back to her car and she sees the police are searching it. So that gave me an indication that Dre really is like on the run. Like, she perhaps a person of interest. Maybe Detective Loretta really was working, the cases and, put an APB out for her. Because I think they had mentioned that they had ended up putting an APB out for Dre. So she immediately doubles back and ducks into a cafe. She goes to the counter and, true to herself, she grabs a cupcake. She loves the frosting on a cupcake, and she's stopped by an employee that tells her she needs to pay for it. Well, she's saved by the bell. Coincidentally, Rashida was sitting on a couch behind her in the cafe, and she's like, I see how it is. You never called me. And Dre is like, oh, well, you seem like a really busy person. And Rashida's like, well, you're a really shitty liar. So they kind of have like a good rapport between them. So she ends up scooping that cupcake up and sitting next to her on the couch, and Rashida's asking like, hey, are you, do you live in this area? And Dre says, yeah, she's looking for a place, which apparently is an expensive area. And then Rashida, they start to flirt a little bit, and Rashida's like, oh, you should give me a ride home. But of course, Dre doesn't have a car right now. And Dre goes, instead of like saying like, no, she deflects and says, your man won't mind. And this actually really throws Rashida off. Like, it turns her off. She does not like it. She tells Dre not to be jealous because she does not do crazy. And I was like, once again, Rashida hits the nail on the head, but still she stays. And Dre tells her like, I can't, my car's in the shop. So they end up walking back to her apartment. So at her apartment, they're making out. They're making out on the couch. This is the first time as a viewer we see Dre actually enjoying sex or, sensuality or intimacy. And but she ends up stopping midway, and she tells Rashida she'll be right back. She goes into the bathroom. She realizes, her period came on. So she's really embarrassed. She tells Rashida like what happened, and Rashida offers her a tampon. And then she's like, Rashida tells Dre she doesn't have to be embarrassed and that she doesn't care. And when she says she doesn't care, it implied like, I don't care that to me, it seems like, I don't care that you're a girl. Like, you have your period. I don't care. I'm with it. So, Rashida's very open. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on the developing relationship between Rashida and Dre and her acceptance of Dre, or Tony, as she's known. Right.
I'm gonna shout out a couple people in the comments here. What's up, Richard? Because we want you guys to interact with us here. Yodi says, thank you for the space so I can decompress. Girl, I'm glad you decompressing because I'm over here stressed, but I'm glad it's helping you. But yeah, guys, let us know what you're thinking so far. This is the final episode. We're talking about episode 7. Yeah, I love this this Dre and Rashida combo. I like that it's somebody that's going toe to toe with her in a sense, that's kind of pushing her. And as an audience member, I'm on the edge of my seat, like, oh God, please don't do this, don't, because I'm like, every time she says something, I'm thinking Dre is gonna snap at any moment because she's too calm for me. Mm-hmm. And I like how Rashida is basically playing out what we're thinking in our head, like, girl, she crazy, right? Like, I understand this love that you have, but she crazy. And I like how she just keeps saying this stuff, but she's still there. So I don't know if I guess Rashida's that type of person that kind of wants to save somebody, and it's like, some people you got to just kind of walk away from, but it is interesting. So at least she has a little bit of support, because again, I don't know why we feel bad for a serial killer, but I mean, she found somebody to she found somebody to be there for her. So I guess it is what it is, for the time being.
Okay, Samuel.
Yeah, with this, it was interesting because it made me think about the scene where she had blood on the shirt and she was like, "You can take your shirt off." I think maybe Dre maybe thought that she didn't know that she was a girl, or she wanted to kind of cover up. Because when the period situation happened, like she could have easily been like, "Oh man, I'm bleeding." Like she went back and then she kind of had to tell her, and I think it was all a culmination of like her trying not to get found out. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that also goes, but it's not just, I think it's a two-hand fold. I think that she doesn't want Rashida to know who she is, but at the same time, it goes back to her family. Like her family and her adopted dad didn't like anything of that nature or implied just from the conversations we've heard him talk about Marissa and how close they
Mm-hmm.
were. So for her, it was kind of like nobody will be accepting of that. And maybe that's why she's always kind of deflected any relationships in general. But I think she was just scared on both fronts. And I thought that was a very interesting concept that Rashida was like, I don't care. It's all
Yep.
good. We're good. But the scene where she was kind of going to the market, I don't know what she was going there for, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Like,
No
it
idea.
really kind of didn't make any sense. But definitely her being on the run, it went back to, I guess, the last episode. And we know, you know, I think that last episode spanned a couple different years. Like, I think it kind of went from the beginning all the way to up to
Mm-hmm.
2018, I believe. And so it was kind of
Yeah.
like that report saying like, oh, okay, Tony is out in there, and then the mishap happened, which of course in this episode. But I think it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this coincide. This let me know that the last episode is it's not an alternate reality. It's actually a part of it, and so I thought that was really fascinating. I just didn't know
Yeah.
where I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, maybe she was getting feminine products or something. I don't know, but yeah, I was like, she didn't buy anything. Maybe that was one of the few editing flubs that they had where I was like, why was she
Well,
in there?
I thought about it, though. There are plenty of times where I hate to say it like this. There's plenty of times we kind of just like to go and hang out and like walk around the store and kind of look around and window shop, and it kind of looks
Okay.
suspect. And that's kind of where she kind of gave off. She was just kind of like looking around. I don't think she was
Yeah,
there to do anything, but that's what it kind of looked like. And
that's what it
yeah,
looked like. Yeah,
yeah.
but
So
I ain't see nothing in her hand. She ain't walk out with anything. So I guess she was just wandering.
for sure.
Um, So yeah, so it's we fast forward a few months later. Dry is picking up flowers for Rashida. Unfortunately, her card is declined. She tells the florist to run the card again, and it still declines. She gives her another card, which also declines. So the florist tells her like, take your business somewhere else, and she takes the bouquet away. So Dre ends up picking up Rashida in her new car. Rashida tells her like, "Oh, this is a third new car this month," and Dre's like, "Oh, I'm picky." And then kind of deflects by telling Rashida she looks really nice. Now I've noticed that. So Dre's been dating Rashida for a while now. She's obviously trying to keep up with the Joneses. She's probably taken out a whole bunch of credit cards, which she's depleting, trying to like give Rashida this like cute little, lovely relationship with flowers and candy and dinners probably. And then she's obviously stealing new cars every couple of weeks, which is why she's popping up with new cars. But in Rashida's mind, it's like, oh, my girl Dre, it just treats me so well and has it going on. So I just picked up on that. Like Dre is faking the funk. Um, so Rashida asked Dre, did she get the flowers? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. The florist was closed. So she was just like, okay. So they actually end up going to Rashida's parents' house, and Dre braces herself for the visit. It's clear Rashida has a very loving relationship with her mother and father, who are played by Cree Summer, legendary, by the way, and Norm Lewis. They immediately embrace Dre before they all go inside. So the relationship that Rashida has with her parents is the complete opposite of Marissa's relationship with her parents. So she sees, a good family dynamic here. Um, so they're at dinner, and the mom's telling, crazy stories about Rashida throwing a tantrum over applesauce. And Rashida's mom was so fed up, she dumped the jar of applesauce right over top of Rashida in the middle of the store. And then toddler Rashida laughed it off and eats the applesauce off of her own body. And, her mom is like just yucking it up. And Rashida's like, no one thinks that story is funny. You're the only person that thinks that. And Rashida's dad's like, yeah, no one thinks it's funny. And he apologizes for embarrassing Rashida. That's what they do when she finally graces them with her presence. And then we kind of learn that Rashida's a grad student, but she's also in school, and her parents are very supportive of her. They don't really think she should work as long as she's in school. They'll support her. But Rashida's like, I like my job. So I'll stop there because there's a few more scenes, interactions within the same night between Rashida, Dre, and her parents. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on that initial interaction. Ryan.
Ooh, I was thinking two things when because I like how you mentioned how she pulled up in the car and she didn't have like new car, didn't have the flowers that Rashida had asked for. So I'm thinking, girl, it is so many red flags where I'm like, why are you not saying anything? But then you have the other hand though, right? When you're in love, when you see somebody that's catching your attention, Tony's got the swag and everything that that's pulling her in. So you're not thinking about it. So you got these two, as an audience member, these two things are like tugging at you, like, what is going on? What's going to happen? But, and like you said, shout out to Cree Summer. Love her. I love this family dynamic that you're like, man, if Dre could have just got this before she went crazy, if she could have had somebody like this in her life, because this was so many sweet moments that you wanted Dre to have before. Because now it's too late, right? Like we know the damage has been done. It's too late, but it was just such a cute moment that makes everything else suck later on. But it was a cute like family moment. So yeah.
All right, Samuel.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at Dre. Even when she went to the florist, like I seen the time she would have just went off and like killed the person, stole the flowers, and left. But she kept the person alive as far as we know, and she still stole cars. I don't know if she killed somebody to get that car or not, but it seems like she's found a way of dialing it down, and whatever it means to have a relationship with this person. It's almost like Rashida's kind of replaced in some ways like her relationship with Marissa, which is very fascinating, and I think it's a healthy relationship. I think the reason why I was like, when they got there, it's like, oh, okay, did you get the flowers? No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Like Rashida could have been like, yeah, she's a drug dealer. Like,
that is giving drug dealer energy. New car.
The way she just accepts whatever it is. And I guess we'll talk about like the conversation with the parents, but when the parents just openly like, hey, we're huggers here. I was like, man, I know Dre is just loving all this because she really needs it. Like the cult, fed a need there, but it was for an ulterior motive. But with this, it's just open embrace love associated with the person that she's caring about. And it's kind of like, if Dre kind of just lets all this go, she could change. We just know she's not capable of it based on what's happened, which makes it even more sad and beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah, Dre is in her Joe Goldberg trying to better himself era. Like he married love, he doesn't want to kill anymore, he just wants to settle down, and we know how that ended up. So Dre is in that same phase, and a lot of times serial killers do go dormant for a little while until the itch comes back. So this team seems to go along nicely with the psyche of a serial killer. So Rashida's mom offers them lemon cake, and while she cuts them into slices in the kitchen, Rashida's dad asks Dre more about herself. And she's like, I'm in between jobs, but she picks up work here and there. And then Rashida even kind of like vouches for her and says, oh, Tony's always working. It's pretty impressive. And you would think like a dad hearing that about his daughter's, girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever wouldn't be like, oh, you're in between jobs. Instead, he actually sympathizes. And he says like, my nephew graduated at the top of his class, but he couldn't find a job. And now he works as a bartender. There's so much pressure on this generation and you have terrible resources. And in his opinion, America has failed their children. And Rashida's like, Dad, come on. Like, let's not talk about this. Like he's getting too preachy. And then Rashida's mom comes in with the lemon cake. So they asked Dre about her background. You know, she says she's from Texas. And then, of course, her parents, Rashida's parents, embarrass her by saying that Rashida was conceived in Houston. And Rashida's like, y'all are on a roll tonight. Like, let's talk about something else. And they asked Dre about her family, like, you know, how often you go back home? Do you see your parents? And Dre was like, I don't have parents. You know, they're dead, they're gone. And Rashida's mother, you know, at this point, she's on the opposite side of the living room on the couch. She goes up, sits next to Dre, grabs her hand, looks her in the eyes, and says, I am so sorry to hear that. And Dre awkwardly says thank you, but you can see how much compassion Rashida's mother and even her father had for Dre.
Yep.
So later that evening, Dre watches Rashida like dancing in the kitchen with her dad. You can see she's clearly enjoying this dynamic. And Rashida's mom, you know, gives her a plate wrapped up, you know, lemon cake for the road. And Dre thanks her, saying it was delicious. We know Dre loves her some snacks, not Drake, Dre.
Not Drake, man.
She looking like Drake in this episode. She got the Drake cut. She does. She got the fade and everything. But anyways, Rashida's mom tells Dre that Rashida never brings home anyone that she's dating. So this is obviously a good thing. And then she goes on to say, like, I know the world has handed you a lot, but I know you're going to be just fine. And Dre is actually touched by her words and thanks her. So that night, Rashida and Dre are in bed, and Rashida's like, it felt weird talking about your parents with my parents. And, you know, she notices that Dre didn't bring up her sister. And Dre says, yeah, I know. And Rashida encourages her. She's like, you know what? You can talk about your sister whenever. Like, don't ever feel like you can't tell me anything. And Dre thanks her. And then Rashida tells Dre that she loves her and that she's glad that they're together. And Dre smiles and agrees. So I was like, oh, this is so cute. They in love. But we know that's not going to last. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on Dre meeting the parents.
Ugh. My heart was melting in this scene so much. Oh, I was just like, if somebody would give her like a little bit of this love before. Like, we know she had Marissa, but you know, we talking about that was a trauma bond. So, you know, this was just to have somebody like Rashida's mom tell her, like, look, you're going to be okay. You know, for like 5 seconds, you had, or like 5 minutes, you might have had hope for Dre because you like, somebody told her she's going to be okay. You know, like her mom coming in. So, but yeah, this whole moment was just so sweet. And then her and Rashida in the bed, and you're like, why you got to do my heart like this? Why is Donald Glover and Janine Neighbors playing? That's all I was thinking, is why they playing with me like this. Because you already know, like Angelica said, serial killers go dormant, but we know what it is. It ain't going away that quick. Like, this is not a form of therapy. It's still covering up what's going down. So, all right, yes. Samuel, I'm done talking. I'm gonna give it to you.
Oh man, I truly did love this because it hit on all the things that Dre needs. She needs somebody that's compassionate. She needed a mother figure. She needed a father figure that was supportive of whatever she's got going on. Somebody that's non-judgmental, and at the same exact time, like a girl that's, you know, covering her all at the same exact time. Like, all the different threads as far as conversations in these few scenes were just everything that you would hope that Dre needed to survive, to move forward. I mean, it's kind of like I at that point I was kind of like, one or two things are gonna happen. Either one, she's gonna get caught and arrested, and she's gonna get all the life that she wanted, or something else worse is gonna happen. And it's at the end of the day, like, you can't negate the things that she's done, but you can empathize that how she got here. There's a reason, there's a path behind it. And I think when the mom said to her, like, you know, you've been dealt a bad hand, like, life has done this and then that, but you're gonna make it. Like, she really embraced that aspect, and it allowed her to move forward with the relationship with Rashida, because I think up until that point, like, I think she cared about Rashida, but she also saw Rashida as a cover. But now it's turned into maybe I can move forward. So yeah, no, it was tender love, man. I don't know what kind of identify. It was a very well written source of dialogue that allowed all these characters to flourish to me. But that last tagline of, like, I love you and I love you too, I was like, come on, bro. Like, stop. Stop.
It kind of reminded me of The Last of Us, that episode with I forget their names because I haven't watched it in a
Oh,
while,
you talking
but
about Bill
with
and
yeah,
Frank?
Oh, yeah.
yes, Bill and Frank. Like it was given Bill and Frank. Like, oh, they're so sweet. They're exactly what
Oh,
each other needs. Uh, that Bill, at least Bill and Frank ended happily.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, sort of. You know, they went out the way they wanted to.
Right.
yeah, right,
Can't say
yeah.
can't say the same here. So it's obviously a few more months have gone by at this point, so they're well established into their relationship. Rashida comes home from a long day of work, and Dre greets her pretty happy. You know, she got a surprise for her. She gives Rashida Nyjah tickets to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. Now, I even thought to myself, are you dumb? Like, you know Rashida does not like Nyjah. Why would you get Nyjah tickets? That makes no sense. And so she tells Rashida to get dressed. Oh, hey, tonight. She tells Rashida to get dressed, and the concert is tonight. And Rashida's like, not very pleased. She tucks the tickets in her pocket, and she's like, I'm not going. And Dre was like, they're front row. And Rashida snaps on her. She's like, are you dumb? Like, are you dumb? I was like, ooh, the gangster came out of her. She was like, you know for a fact that I hate Nyjah. You know, it's one of the top 5 trending topics in our relationships. You know, Dre could have used that money to pay for a vacation for them to go together, you know, dinner at a restaurant that Rashida's been begging to go to for months. It was very reminiscent of the last argument that Dre had with Marissa, where she spent their rent money on tickets to see Nyjah. Same situation here.
Yep.
So Rashida's like, honestly, you could have flushed the money for the tickets down the toilet, and it would have been better than giving our money to that woman and her money grabbing husband. And she was like, how much were the tickets? You know, what were they, like $4K? Is that why you couldn't pay rent? You know, is that why I work 2 jobs so we don't end up on the streets and go to Nyjah concerts? And Dre's just standing there taking it. And I was like, I don't know what she's going to do, but she just stood there, and Rashida just kept going. She calls her like a selfish asshole for thinking that Nyjah tickets will be a good idea. You know, she just had to ask her parents for money to make ends meet. Something that she hates to do in the first place, while Dre's out here blowing money on Nyjah tickets where they can sit front row and listen to horrible music. She says if like Dre really wanted to make her happy, she could have taken her to see Nyjah's sister. Then she would have at least know that Dre actually listened to her. And we know Nyjah's sister is like the equivalent of Solange. So more of Rashida's speed. And then she's just going. She's letting loose. Obviously, there's some resentment at this point. She's like, Dre, are you listening to me? Or Tony, are you listening to me? Or are you just gonna, walk around with this bewildered save me look on your face? And I was like, oh, that was a read. Dre does look like that. And then she was like, oh, should we go to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to watch someone perform Runs for 80 minutes? That's gonna make everything so much better. I was like, oh my gosh, Rashida was on one. So yeah, it doesn't end well. You know, she yells at Dre some more. She calls her a selfish mother effer. And Dre, this is when she finally breaks as far as her reaction. She was standing there pretty quietly, just taking it. And you see a tear, one single tear roll down her eye, roll down her face. And she quietly walks over to Rashida, and without a word, she begins to strangle her. Like, she tells her, Rashida's like, please get off of me, stop it. She's trying to fight for her life, and she's begging for Dre to stop. She's like, I love you, don't do this. But Dre, she ain't stopping. She just holds on, and she's crying. Like she's literally has like tears streaming down her face as she's killing Rashida, and she ends up falling asleep over her body. So I'll stop there for that plot twist, although I can't say I didn't see it coming considering how much Rashida hated Nyjah. That was inevitable. So your thoughts, Ryan?
When she says you could have flushed the money down the toilet and it would have been better, I was like, oh my God. No, first of all, when she first started with the dumb, I was thinking, because I didn't expect that. Yeah, are you dumb? Like the way she said it, I didn't expect that, because to this point, now we know there's been red flags all the way up to this point. Because you don't know where she's getting these cars from. Where's the money coming from? How you going to go to the parents' house? You don't have no flowers. Like, you know, it's just like so many things that was adding up to this point. And so when she said, "Are you dumb?" I was like, well, dang, maybe we wasn't following. Maybe the love wasn't as a deep hold as we thought it was. You know, at the beginning when she said that, but whew, it was just a complete read on Dre's life that she needed. But I hate that it had to be Rashida. Because they took my girl Rashida out. Shout out to Kirstie Clemens for holding tight. Y'all, girl, you almost made it to episodes. You almost made it throughout the episode. But yeah, it's rough. I think out of all the bodies, like, because we just know it's bodies, this one was the one where you were like,
Damn.
you say it ain't so. Like, you still had shock, even though you know everybody is out. But it was just like, yeah, it was a damn Dre. I was like, what is happening? I was like, why are we doing this? Why? I just, Lord.
Samuel, your thoughts?
All I kept thinking of was Huey from the Boondocks, and I was like, "This is a ninja moment," and like straight up, like you knew straight up when they even started the conversation, like she was already stressed. She was on the phone. She didn't want to be bothered. She really just wanted to put her feet up. And Dre never reads the room because Dre honestly inherently is selfish. She really is.
Yeah,
like, we know that, right? And it's just like the Marissa situation. Even the situation where she was at the mall covering for Marissa, like she was not thinking, and it wasn't as though like, now look, Rashida could have took them tickets and ripped it up in front of her. She folded them up, she put them up in her back pocket, and she went off on her straight up. Like they've been dating for a year. This isn't like they've been dating for months. Like they know each other. So it was like, it wasn't like she was coming out of her pocket. Like she was coming, telling her correct. Like, look, this is what you're doing, and this isn't cool. I didn't appreciate this. And I think that because Dre didn't read the room, like, all right, this girl's already irritated. She just thought selfishly that, okay, my passion, it can be projected onto her and it'll make her day feel better. And she's always had that flaw. And it was just like, it was a ninja moment. Like straight up, like, Rashida went off on her tail. It's just the problem is Rashida didn't know the capability of Dre.
No.
Like didn't know what she was in bed with. That's the sad thing about it. And then even like the last moments, even when they were like, when Rashida was begging for her life and Dre was saying something along the lines of like, I loved you. I wanted you to experience Nigel with me. That's why I wanted you to have the tickets, because I loved you. And she's slowly killing this girl. But it's like, Dre, was it really that necessary? Did you really have to do this? Because I question, was she a target from the beginning? Like, did she target Rashida because Rashida just didn't like Nigel? Because I was kind of like, why did she pinpoint Rashida to begin with? Like, it seemed like they were attracted. She was attracted to her, but I really don't know. But yeah, bro, it was a bad ninja moment, man. Like the way Rashida went out, like she didn't have to go out like that. And and being a guy, being on the receiving end of that, I've been selfish and put myself in situations like that. And you know what? Sometimes I got to take it. Like I'm at fault with that. And Dre would have never been able to take ownership of that. She just kind of stayed silent, and it all started to bubble up because she wasn't being clear about what was going on inside of her heart anyway. But the weird thing is, it goes back to that last scene. It's like, how much did Dre tell Rashida? Because if she told her about her sister, told her about the parents, like how much did they really talk? Like, did she know everything? I really don't know. That's what I was going to ask you guys. Do you think that Tony or Dre told Rashida everything? Because
no, I don't think she would. I don't think she would have trusted her enough.
That's what I was wondering. That's what I was curious.
I think she gave her most likely the truth wrapped in lies. Like, I'm from Houston. I had a better relationship with my family. They're dead. My sister's dead. I loved her. I love Nyjah. Like, I traveled a lot to get over her death. But I don't think she was like, but along the way, I was murdering people. I mean, Rashida cool, but she ain't that cool. I don't think she would have been accepting of that.
Yeah.
And Indiga brought up a good point. She said that the relationship with Rashida began and ended in the exact same room. So they kind of had their flirtation on the couch, and she was murdered on the couch. So good eye there. And the scene also was reminiscent. I don't know if you guys ever seen the Talented Mr. Ripley. When he finally got a lover, he was closeted and he got this lover, but the lover found out that he's a serial killer. And so he like strangled him to death and was like crying as he was strangling. So it kind of, I feel like Dre's murder of Rashida was maybe a little bit inspired by the death of Mr. Ripley's lover at the end of that film. So sorry if I spoiled it, but the movie is like 30 years old. So if you haven't seen it by now, my bad.
I'm looking
yeah.
it up now.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It has a young Matt Damon, a young Jude Law, and a young Gwyneth Paltrow. So it's a good movie
Yeah.
about a serial killer and a con artist. Who's closeted, and so we don't quite know what Dre's sexuality really is, but at this point she's in a relationship with a woman until she killed her. So Dre takes Rashida to the woods and burns her body. And another note, I had mentioned that the argument was reminiscent of Marissa. Her last argument with Marissa left her. In this case, instead of Rashida leaving her, Dre took Rashida out the picture. Like Dre was like, "You're not gonna leave me. I'm gonna take you out." So yeah, she takes her body to the woods, burns it. This appears to be the only killing that she really regrets. Like you could see that she's very upset. She didn't really want to do it, but she felt like she had to. But then it dawns on her that burning Rashida's body also burns her Niger tickets. Because remember, Rashida put them tickets in her pocket. So I'm like, you big dummy. Like, what are you doing? So Dre heads to the stadium and I'm sorry, I had to another Easter egg is every song used in a series matches scene that was placed in almost word for word context. Oh, okay. I might have to go back and listen to the song. I know SZA was playing at some point when she was with Rashida. So Dre heads to the stadium. She's with the door attendant. They asked, like, do you have a ticket? And Dre says she doesn't, if they keep a list. And he's like, no, we don't keep a list. Do you have an email on your phone? Dre's like, I don't have a phone. He was like, okay, well, you're out of luck. So she pushes her way to the front of the ticket counter, like shoves past a bunch of people. And they're like, dude, like, so these people think she's a guy. And she talks to the girl at the ticket counter, and the girl's like, oh, the tickets are already sold out. And she's like, no, I lost my ticket. So the girl's like, okay, no problem. What's your name? And she says, Rashida. So she's like, okay, just give me your ID and I can print out your new ticket. We know Dre don't have ID, period. And she definitely don't have Rashida's ID. So Dre just walks away without a word. She is devastated. She just murdered her girlfriend and now she can't even see Nyjah. Like, what a horrible night. So she notices a ticket scalper and offers to buy tickets off him. They kind of meet in her car in the parking garage to kind of make the transaction. But before they can even exchange money, Dre calmly stabs him to death like 20 times in the gut and just does this, like, I don't know. She makes these weird faces when she murders people.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I did what I had to do. And so, she grabs the tickets. She heads inside for the concert. She pushes her way through the crowd to the front row. She's entranced by Nyjah's performance, and she somehow climbs onto the stage and she attempts to touch Nyjah. She's immediately tackled by security, who drag her off the stage. But before she's taken away, Nyjah tells them to let her go. And this scene was pretty trippy. Nyjah approaches her, but this time her body is Nyjah's, but her face is Marissa's. So it's almost like one of those like Snapchat filters when you put someone else's face over top of yours. Like, it was just very unnerving. And she gives Dre the mic and tells her to sing for the audience and to not be afraid. So Dre grabs the mic and tells the crowd she loves them. Then they all cheer and Dre is caught up in the moment. After the concert, Dre is escorted out with Nyjah to her car. They sit in the back seat, and Nyjah/Marissa pulls Dre into her arms and holds her, and a teary-eyed Dre thanks her. And that is how we end the episode. Like, what a doozy. So my question to you guys, the ending. Because the title of the show is Only God Makes Happy Endings, do you think what went down was all in Dre's head as far as what happened at the concert, or do you think it really happened? Ryan?
Ugh. I was torn at the end of this because if you're being realistic, because I'll pop this picture back up again. if you're being realistic, right, you could be like in this dream world, right, and you like, okay, this ain't, she dreaming, she getting taken away. I don't know why she thought it was okay to climb up on that stage like she did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you still like, you're still thinking, okay, all of this that she's went through, like all these bodies these people go find, all these count was for her to get to this concert and meet Naja. So you thinking this is the conclusion. She's finally, you know, gotten to where she's needed to go. Like somebody that she thinks understands her. You know, like that's all she's been working towards. You know, she's killed the possible love, like the only possible love you probably had after Marissa left, to get to this concert. Which, by the way, who gonna leave the tickets in the pocket? Let's just go back to that. Like, what? Like, who leaves the tickets in the pocket? She went through all that. But yeah, I think the flowers and rainbows side of me wanted to be like, oh, Naja liked her. She's in the car and everything, and it's fine. But she like, somebody got to pay for these bodies because we've been watching this all season. Like, something's got to come to the head. Like, it can't, you know, if we being realistic, it can't go down like this. And I remember seeing Janine Neighbors bring this up, and you know, like we keep saying, shout out to them, shout out to Donald Glover for how well they crafted this, the writers, the little nuggets that they put in there, where it either answer you give could be right. Like they're never gonna tell you. Like that's the power of that this show had. It took over social media because you're never gonna know which one was the right one, what they wanted you to think at the end. And you know, Samuel touched on the last episode. You could have easily said last episode was the end episode, because of the way they've placed such the way they've done this so intricately and make sure the details were right and pulled us along. So yeah, they did a fantastic job with this one.
Yeah. Samuel?
Yeah. I mean, I gotta talk about the instant karma, man. Like she just burned the love of her life. And yes, she was remorseful about it, but she decided instead of missing the Naja concert, she sacrificed somebody to go to Naja's concert. And then she, of course, burned her tickets, which is instant karma. But I personally think that, and part of this is because I went back to the last episode. The last episode, Detective Green literally showed like a video of somebody going on stage and getting caught. And it was like, this is Tony. And she was trying to get to Tony to see if they could keep her under their jurisdiction for long enough before they released her. And I think that that's the actual ending. I think that for Dre, it was like just like the Apple situation. She didn't remember what she did. Like she was biting the apple. Like I think for her, she was in close enough proximity that she started to float up there, and she was like, "Oh, okay, I did this," but then no, like this glorious moment happened. I think that it's her mind needing that to be the reality. Like I think that that's the course that we've kind of determined with Dre, is that she comes outside of her mind with a lot of things, like whether it's the phone, whether it's the Apple situation, any kind of situations when it comes to Naja, she just becomes something completely different. So I think that this ending is her mind's fabrication of it. And I think that the last episode actually was the ending. I think that she probably got away. And like, you know, the detective, like she was like, I think this is the same as that person, but I think she probably got away yet again. But I mean, it's a good little fairy tale ending for her as a character. But I think the truth of the matter is like, nah, bro, like you got way too many bodies on you. Like you literally sacrificed the love of your life over this. Like, no, I can't let any of that go. It was well crafted. But I think that if you go back through a few episodes, you can kind of tell where this really ended, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking the fact that Detective Green had the footage of the man storming the stage. That actually was real footage from the On the Run 2 tour in Atlanta in 2018. A man did try to rush the stage to get to Beyonce and Jay-Z. So that's why I love the fact that they were playing around with Dre's sexuality, and that, you know, her being more masculine could have been a disguise, and it explains the real life footage of a man rushing the stage that was quote unquote the real Dre. So I really love that tie-in. And I agree. I absolutely believe that Dre was so caught up in the performance. I believe she stabbed someone to death. I believe she killed Rashida. I believe she got on the stage, but she got pulled away by security. And in that moment, her mind switched to delusion and her coping mechanism, which is Nigel's my friend, Nigel's my friend. And it made it even more clear that it was like a delusion because her face was Marissa, the two most important people in her life to her. Nigel and Marissa became one. And so I think she really was crying in the back of a cop car, thinking she was being cuddled by Marissa slash Nyjah. And no, I don't think she lived happily ever after. I do think, I don't know if Detective Green ever got a hold of her. She might have made bail. She might be still on the run, or she might be in a holding cell somewhere. But I do know she did not have a happy ending with Nyjah. So yeah, that is how we wrap the series. So before we go, your thoughts on all the episodes, beginning to end. How did you enjoy this season? And what would you like to see if they did a season 2? Would you like to see a Dre continuation, or would you like to see an anthology series about crazy fandoms? Oh, Ryan, I think you're on mute.
You're mute.
Wow, it helps to unmute, huh? Hello.
Yeah.
There we go. Yodi shout out said I agree. Indiga, the obsession with Marisha and Nyjah are one and the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, you guys keep giving us your comments on what you thought of the season altogether. But yeah, it was well done. They did a good job. I was like nervous all the time because I was not expecting as many bodies as we got. I did not expect to have remorse for a serial killer. They played this. I haven't felt like this about a show since watching The Joker. Because usually I don't like to go to the villain side. I'm always rooting for the good guy to win, right? But it's like when you have the right cast, when you got the right creators, when they put the work into it, it catches you. Like you sit here to the end because you're like, what is going to happen? Are they really going to catch this person? Are they that smart? And with Dre, you never knew. You were like, sometimes you're like, okay, she got to figure it out. But then she's eating something out of the refrigerator. And you're like, girl, why are you leaving evidence? So it was so all over the place and eclectic, and she was crazy, but I loved it. And yeah, if it's a season 2, I don't know. Like it kind of feels like it couldn't be because you're thinking she has to get caught at some point. Like it's no way this keeps going where she does it. So you're like, she has to get caught at some point. But you know, it's drama for you. So why not? Why not give us a season 2 and see how far she can take it?
Exactly. Or what about an anthology of like crazed fans? Like
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that would be interesting too. Because you know, like it's important because we all have our like our fandoms, right? People that you really, make you feel a certain type of way about their music, about their performances, but you just can't take it too far. Like realize the line. Hopefully, like if you're getting a little bit, like I forgot homeboy with the bucket hat from the other episode. Don't go that crazy. If you part of the Beehive, I forgot his name, like his character name.
Oh yeah. Like I wouldn't murder nobody.
Yeah. When you start doing that, pull it back a little bit. But we all we're not saying it's bad to be a fan because we all have our fandoms that we're going after and stuff and people that we like to support. But yeah, I think this puts a little microscope that we need because sometimes it's hard to put that phone down. So the anthology series will be interesting. Like a little reminder, like back up off Twitter a little bit, calm down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that would be interesting.
All right, Samuel.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the series. I think in the very beginning, the first 2 episodes, I was kind of caught off guard as to what kind of show this is going to be. But I do think that if this was done like week to week, as opposed to just a full entire season, I think it would have been received a little bit better. Because one of the benefits I had is each week I was able to kind of like process it, think about the last episode and go back over it. Like, because everything was thrown right at you and you have to binge it, you're going to miss stuff. And depending on how you go through it, like you might be like, I don't know what the heck I just watched, like, because you're just trying to get through something. And I think that's one of the things that kind of separates people's perspective on this one. But for me, watching it week to week and actually being able to digest it a little bit easier, I think it definitely benefited me on the long run. I think it would have benefited some others as well. As far as the continuation of this specific story, no. But I would like to see an anthology. If they did an anthology with like another iconic character or figure and somebody just obsessed with them, I think that'd be very fascinating. Because then you can use a lot of different various actors, and you can always have Dre pop in like she's still alive, something crazy like that. Like she just interacts with one of these other fans, because I think that would be very fascinating to have Dre actually interact with another fan as obsessed as she is.
Mm.
Because we haven't had that. The whole entire season, we never had her actually be with another person that's obsessed with something else as she is. And so I think that'd be a really good thing. But yeah, anthology I think would be really dope. It just depends on if that's Donald Glover what he wants to do. But
Right. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if there'll be a second season. We don't know if he's going to do an anthology. We don't have any announcement yet. But I agree. I think I would like an anthology, same universe, different fandoms. So they could do the Barbs. They can do Star Wars fandom. There are so many different toxic fandoms that people that you could basically make a satirical show out of. So I personally really love this series. I watched it in about 2 sittings. It had everything I loved. It had horror. It had comedy. It had satire. It had just everything. So I would love to see more of Swarm in any capacity. But I hope this gets put up for award season because Dominique Fishback killed it, literally. So
shout out to the cast. There they go. I try to find
the
more of them, but
cast.
there you go. They did. There's Dominique looking gorgeous as always. But yeah, she did a great
Yes.
job.
Chloe, my girl Chloe.
There's Chloe. There's Donald. There's Janine. If you guys haven't seen her before, Damson. He's a snack on the internet, so I know everybody picked it out. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, the cast did a phenomenal job. They did a great job with this. So I'm hoping these people get their shine on, get them in some different genres, keep them on TV, get them Emmys. They did a fantastic job.
Absolutely. And Chloe Bailey said she did an interview where she said this role is what made her really fall back in love with acting and being able to play off Dominique Fishback. And they asked, out of all the people you've worked with over the years as far as your acting career, who did you learn from the most? And she was like, Dominique Fishback. We were on set for 2 weeks and just getting able to work with her was just amazing. So you really tell that she took a lot away from the show, and she wasn't even in it that long, but her character made a big impact. So yeah, I really loved it. So any final thoughts before we wrap up this recap series?
Let's see.
Oh, that is a good idea.
With Dominique, playing a different character. Ooh, boy, she would. Oh Lord, when you talk about acting, woo, yeah, that would be interesting. I'm with that. Yeah, I'm with that. That's cool.
Like Evan Peters is like the American Horror Story guy. He's playing a different version of that's a good idea.
Nice, good idea. Thank you guys for the comments, and we appreciate you guys riding with us all season. It's been crazy. I'm glad you guys chilled out. I'm glad it was a stressful week for some people because, Lord, it was stressing me out.
It was stressful.
Season. I was like, Lord, what is happening? But we made it. Another one down. You guys follow us on social media because, we always got something coming up, some show that we're thinking about sharing with you guys, giving us our perspective. Thank you for listening and all the shout outs and all the comments. And, yeah, that's it. It's a wrap.
Hope
Make sure your favorite artist is Naja. We'll see you guys later.
Bye. Who's your favorite artist? Bye.
Yeah, who's your favorite artist? Bye, guys.